The WNBA just released their 2024 MVP ladder. A'ja Wilson 1, Napheesa Collier 2, Sabrina Ionescu 3, Breanna Stewart 4, Alyssa Thomas 5, and honorable mentions, Caitlin Clark. What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Today, once again, we have got to talk about the WNBA MVP conversation. I made a video about this a couple weeks ago, and I honestly got flamed on Instagram for my take because I claimed that Caitlin Clark should be in this MVP conversation. So before we even jump into my opinion, let's first look at the official WNBA MVP ladder. So they have A'ja Wilson at number 1, which the conversation of this entire season is A'ja Wilson is unanimous MVP. There's no debating it. If you even talk about MVP, you have to be like, well, of course A'ja Wilson's running away with it. Like, you cannot even have any kind of constructive conversation around MVP unless you preface it by saying, well, I already know that A'ja Wilson won. Like, that's the standard if you talk about this conversation, which I think is a little weird. I feel like we should be able to just talk about it. I am a fan of A'ja Wilson. I wore my white tee and my gray sweatpants shorts in honor of her. WNBA has A'ja at 1. Number 2, Napheesa Collier. She is also in my top 3. She has become one of my favorite players this season. The Minnesota Lynx also, in my opinion, have a great chance to make it to the finals. They, besides the Liberty, look like the most cohesive team. And Napheesa can take over the game at any point in time. We've seen her do this on multiple occasions. She's kind of like a silent killer. She doesn't do much. You don't see many celebrations from her. She doesn't fight with the refs that much. Like, she's not that animated of a player, and maybe that's why she's kind of been flying under the radar a little bit. But she can ball. Number 3, they have Sabrina. She's always consistent, but I don't think as far as MVP conversation goes that Sabrina deserves to be this high. I think Breanna should be ahead of her, another Liberty player, but I do understand why maybe you would have 2 players from the Liberty in the top 5. With that being said, number 5 should not be Alyssa Thomas. Getting to the honorable mention, they have Caitlin Clark, and this is what they had to say about Caitlin Clark. While the Fever underwent understandable woes in the first month of the season, Indiana is 14-6 over their last 20 games, including 2 massive wins coming out of the All-Star break. Clark has found a synergy with her teammates and elite comfort on the floor as a facilitator and creator. She's knocking on the door of first-team All-W and top 5 finish in MVP voting. I don't think she's knocking on the floor of first team. I think she's in there. And I'm going to go out on a limb right here and say that she is top 3. My top 3, A'ja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Napheesa Collier. If we look at their stats, A'ja wipes the floor with both of them. The only categories that she doesn't have are assists, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. Caitlin has all of those. She is tied for steals with Napheesa. And if you watch A'ja play, you can see how she dominates the game. Like, she's an incredible player. I don't think that I have to beat that point into your heads. You guys get it. If you watch A'ja play, she's a great basketball player. Is she a better player overall right now than Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier? Yes. Is she a more valuable player to her team than Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier? That is where I'm not sure. And that's where we can start to have this conversation. The MVP award is subjective. It's very hard to just go by numbers and hand out this award. We saw it this season with the NBA MVP award when the Joker won it again 3 years in a row, and Shaq came out and said, I respect your game. However, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have won the award.
I'm not happy with this one. Congratulations to Joker. You are the best big man in the league, but based on everybody's criteria, my criteria, stat stuffer, you guys' criteria, number 1 seed, which team has a better record, I felt Shai Alexander deserved it.
And even if you look at the comparison for those 3 players, where it was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka, and the Joker, Nikola Jokic's stats weren't ahead of Shai's or Luka's. If you looked at it, then Luka should have been awarded MVP. But OKC got the number 1 seed when they weren't expecting to. Like, there are so many variables that go into it. Or there's the season that Russell Westbrook won MVP, and he clearly won MVP because he had an absurd amount of triple doubles and his stats were just incredible. Yet I don't don't know if his team even made it out of the first round. So there are so many different ways that you can interpret this MVP award. That's why when I hear media and WNBA analysts saying like, it's unanimous, it's A'ja, if you think any other way, you're just absolutely wrong. Like, I don't think that's actually fair to say, because I think that there's a case to be made for Caitlin, and there's also a case to be made for Napheesa, and there might also be a case to be made for Stewie, simply because the Liberty have been so dominant this season. So let's talk about Caitlin Clark for a second. I made a video where I talked about Candace Parker winning Rookie of the Year and WNBA MVP in her first season in the WNBA, and we talked about, can Caitlin Clark do it? What does she have to do? So if we look at Candace Parker's stat line for the 2008 season, she averaged 18.5 points per game. Caitlin is currently averaging more points than that. Candace has more rebounds by a solid amount. But look at these other stats. Caitlin is averaging more assists, more steals, more three-pointers per game, and a higher free throw percentage. Also, Candace Parker is not a point guard, she's a 4. So they're different positions. Caitlin is right there, if not putting up better numbers than Candace did during her rookie season. With that being said, there was no A'ja Wilson in that 2008 season who's putting up crazy stat lines, but the goalpost for Caitlin continues to move. It's like the better she does, the further they move their expectations or what she would need to do to even be, like this article says, in the top 5. If Caitlin Clark is not on the ballot, is not in that top 5 for MVP, people are gonna lose their mind. Because at this point, it would once again just be a hit on her. It would just be keeping her out so that we didn't praise the golden child too much. She should absolutely, if not in the top 3 where I have her, she should absolutely at least be on that ballot. When we talk about most valuable player, I think it is also fair to note that the Aces have a stacked roster. There are 4 women on that team who were on Team USA. The Minnesota Lynx, not as much, and the Fever had 0 players that played for Team USA and were also the worst team in the WNBA last season. And while after the Olympic break, Caitlin Clark is putting up insane numbers, she's averaging over 25 points since the Olympic break, she has not only become a better player, but she has made her teammates substantially better, and they are now winning games. Napheesa, I think, does the same thing for her team. When she is not on the floor, her team is different. They are not the same Minnesota Lynx team. So when you talk about most valuable, those two to me carry a little bit more weight than A'ja does for the Aces. A'ja's out right now with an injury. It doesn't seem like it's too serious, and I hope that she is back soon, especially I hope she's back for the Fever games. But they played the Liberty a couple nights ago, and they were right there. It was a close game until the end. Kelsey Plum stepped up big, and that's what I mean when I say, when we talk about the value to the team, A'ja Wilson is absolutely valuable to that team. However, they have other players who are also so valuable and can take over the game and are leaders and are veterans. One more thing on Caitlin, which makes her super valuable, is she is leading the WNBA in points generated, which means points scored and or points assisted on. She is leading the league by a significant margin, and she is doing this as a rookie with a Fever team that is not comprised of a bunch of all-stars. And so that's why maybe the MVP category is just about how you think about it. Do you think about it as the single best, most skilled player in the league, which right now is A'ja, which right now is A'ja Wilson? Give her the crown. That is absolutely hers. Or is it the most valuable and most impactful to the team? And maybe this is a friendly debate that we'll probably be having until the end of time. It happens in the NBA all the time. It's great that it's happening here. But I do think that we got to give Caitlin Clark more respect, because at this point, the goalpost keeps getting moved. And if they continue to play like they're playing, the Fever are going to make a run in the playoffs. And that might sound crazy for me to say, but this team is starting to gel. But let me know what you guys think. How do you think the MVP award should be judged? Should it be based on your stat lines, how skilled you are, based on your skill as the best basketball player? Or do you think it should more so go with the impact that you have on a team, how valuable you are to a team, how well your team is playing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And of course, give me your pick for WNBA MVP. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week. And with that, see you guys next time. Ooh,